Success, it has been said, is not the absence of failure, but going from failure to failure without any loss of enthusiasm. My name is BJ Grimiglian, and I am the host of the Rush to Fail podcast. This podcast was created to highlight and learn from others who have turned their failures into success in hopes that it will both inspire and encourage others to push through their trials and to not be afraid of short-term failure. Our mantra on this show is to fail often, fail forward, and rush to fail. Welcome to the Rush to Fail podcast. I'm your host, BJ Grimiglian, and today I have Nick Jackson, who is my brother-in-law, but more importantly, maybe not more importantly, something to know about Nick Jackson is, and hopefully everyone can watch this on YouTube so that you can see his biceps that take up about half of the screen right now. But he is actually an amazing bodybuilder and has put a lot of time and energy and effort into that. And he turned pro in bodybuilding in 2021 for the IFBB. And so I'm now learning about, what all these things are. And I'm excited for him to kind of fill us in on that. He is also an associate general counsel for First Electronic Bank, in Salt Lake City. And that means that he is an attorney, which we won't hold against him. Otherwise is a very cool dude. So, Nick, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So I text Nick while I was in church today, and I was like, you know what? I need to have Nick Jackson on my podcast. It was like one of those random thoughts, which happens a lot with me. My wife knows this about me, where I'm just one of those where if I get something in my head, if an idea pops in, I have no problem just kind of acting on it on the fly. But selfishly for me, this is exciting because I actually have not had a chance to really get to know Nick as well as my other brothers who all live in Utah because I live in Tennessee. And another fun fact about Nick that I didn't mention is he is from Tennessee. So we have switched places and now we are going to be working on them to come back to Tennessee. That would be awesome. Have you guys ever talked about that, by the way?
We've talked about it a couple times, and it's one of those things where it has to be such a job offer that I can't turn up or can't pass up, excuse me.
Yeah.
And so I would love to come back, but it would have to be something really, really sweet deal. And it'll have to be on the east side of the state, close to where you are, a little bit north of Chattanooga, a little bit east of Nashville and suburbs of Nashville, something like that. But we've had a couple conversations, and Emily is, I think she'll be on board. Probably take a little bit of coaxing, but I think she'll be happy about it.
Hey, we need to have you guys come visit us, and then I think that's all it will take. Once she gets out here, don't bring her in the wintertime because it's not as,
right,
enticing during that time, as you know. But, yeah, get her out here any other time, and I think we can convince her. But we got to find a job for you out here, too. Who knows? Maybe one of these days I'll need an attorney on retainer or something like that, Hopefully not, actually. That would be sad. But that means I'm in trouble. But yeah, so I would love to kind of learn a little bit about your journey. So I know that, were you born and raised in Memphis? Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. All right, cool. So yeah, you went to University of Tennessee. Did you always want to go into law? Did you know that's what you wanted, or how did that work?
So ever since I was about 8 years old, I wanted to be an attorney. Like I had it hard set, never waived, never thought about anything else. Like attorney is what I wanted to do. And so a lot of it came from watching Law and Order. And you get those episodes in front of you, like, what, that's what I want to do. Like I want to represent people, I want to do this, I want to do that. And so I did mock trial in high school, and I got an internship from doing that. A couple of the judging attorneys who were watching us and judging the teams felt like I had really good diction and presence as far as being an attorney in those mock trial situations. And so I interned for a malpractice attorney in downtown Memphis, and they actually represented nursing homes. So they were always busy with lawsuits and things of that nature, because as we know, nursing homes are not always the most outstanding places to be, and workers tend to fall through the cracks with the things they need to accomplish and do for patients and residents. So they were always busy. And I remember sitting in different depositions and seeing all the photos like bed sores and things of that nature. And that eliminated one area of the law that I didn't want to do. And that was malpractice, medical malpractice. Like, no, this is not for me. I'm not trying to look at these pictures every day. I'm not trying to hear these terrible stories of people not doing the job properly. And
Mm-hmm.
so, but through that internship, it really kind of gave me a window into what it's like to be a litigation attorney. Also told me what I didn't want to do, and that was litigation, because they're always busy. 60, 70, 80-hour work, 90, 100-hour work weeks, trying to prepare for cases and filing and deadlines and things of that nature. And so once I kind of got that experience, I was like, okay, let me figure out what other areas of law that I may be potentially interested in. And so employment law kind of came up, constitutional law came up as kind of like precursors. And then when I got to law school in 2012, after I graduated from the University of Tennessee, it kind of helped me filter through a lot more and realize, constitutional law is great, but it's also the same thing litigation. They go hand in hand. So you had all these work weeks, and I knew that at some point I wanted to start a family, and that kind of work wouldn't allow me to be present as much as I wanted to be, uh, as a family man, as a dad, as a husband, because I'll be locked in the office, I'll be at work all the time, miss holidays and things of that nature, because work would come first, and so that would be very, very hard. Um, so when I graduated law school in 2015, uh, that's when I moved to Utah. And so I was working at the adjudication office with Social Security, and that also kind of eliminated an area of law for me, because as I was working in the adjudication office, I realized I didn't want to do disability law. This is not something I want to deal with. I don't want to deal with claimants. I don't want to deal with the federal government like that. So I moved into compliance at Desert First Credit Union. That was the second job after Social Security. And I realized, okay, I kind of like this. I like the banking side. I like the finance side, regulations and things of that nature. The meticulousness of it, the constant changing area of the law from different administrations, how they apply the law and things of that nature. So that really interests me. And so once I left compliance and I left Desert First to start working at First Electronic, and it became a lot more legal work in this current position, which I really, really appreciated. And so it took a lot of my law skills and really honed them, and continues to hone them, from research to writing to analyzing. And it's a new type of area of banking, because we're dealing with fintechs, which is kind of like a new horizon for banking. And so having this new kind of wild, wild west of the banking industry really poses a lot of fun and also a lot of work, because regulations are coming and the regulatory bodies are paying attention. And so that's kind of the fun part, because you have all these new rules that you have to kind of keep up on. And as an attorney, you're responsible for guiding the bank in the right direction. And so that kind of things are what excite me and make each day very, very fun.
Man, your idea of fun, Nick, is so different than mine. It is so interesting that any of that fascinates you. Good for you. I love that. I'm looking for the loopholes, right? And then you're just looking for the ways to protect the bank. So that's fun. I love it. I love that that is fun to you. And the other thing that is obviously fun to you. Well, okay, before I get to that, why did you move to Utah, by the way?
So going back, I actually had two choices. So I
Yeah.
was actually on my way to Lincoln, Nebraska. I accepted a job in Lincoln, Nebraska, working
Oh,
for
wow.
CPS. Of all divisions in state government, it was CPS, because
Oh,
I'm the type, like, I need something to do. And
yeah.
in the summer after I graduated law school, that first month is nice, because you not have to deal with classes and things of that nature. But once that 1 month passes, like, I need
Mm,
something to do. Like, I need something to kind of wake up and fill my day with. And so I was like looking for a job. I was applying everywhere across the country. Like,
mm,
I was applying in Maine, I was applying in Montana. Like, I just wanted a job to do, because I need something to keep my mind functioning
yeah.
and not have idle hands. So
Yeah.
I agreed to go to Lincoln, Nebraska, and then 2 weeks before I was supposed to report, I was
Mhm.
offered a job in Salt Lake. And so I remember
Wow.
sitting at home. I was like, Lincoln, Nebraska, Salt Lake City. Like, how can I weigh this one out? And for those who haven't been to Lincoln, Nebraska, I can tell you right now, no offense to anyone who lives in Lincoln, Nebraska, but
Oh no,
it
they all get exactly what you're about to
is,
say.
it is
Trust
by
me.
far one of the boring places I've ever been to. And so,
Yeah,
yeah, like cornfields as far as the eye can see, and that's about it. And that's
man,
what snapped
dodged
me.
a bullet there, buddy.
Yeah, so that's what pushed me. That was like the extra push to come to Salt Lake City.
Yeah, that wasn't a hard decision, I'm sure. Oh man,
Yeah,
and it's so cool to see how things work out, because I mean, obviously, had that worked out for you in Lincoln, I mean, we're probably not talking right now,
exactly.
um, because just so happens, and it's funny. So people that don't know, I guess, about my family, so there are 8 kids, right? So I'm the middle child, and then the one just older than me. So number 3 is Nick's wife, Emily, and we never got along growing up. I mean, like we never hung out, didn't really talk much, very different personalities, couldn't be more different. And so, we didn't really talk a whole lot, but we'd stay in touch, and this is kind of how I am. Like a lot of my siblings, like, we just don't talk a whole lot, but when we get together, it's the best. But so anyways, I don't know when it happened for her, but like she got this bug of like working out all the time. And then she got like legit just like ripped, just like she without question can bench press more than me, can do more pull. I mean, you name it, like she's better than me at all of the above when it comes to, because she just like turned into this like machine.
Yeah,
And so got into that scene and started doing competitions and stuff. And then I imagine, did you guys meet at the gym, right? Or
we
am I wrong?
did.
That would be really
We
funny if it was anywhere outside of the gym, because yeah, like
it would have
the
been
two of
odd.
you, I think, were living in the gym.
Yeah, yeah. If we knowing our backgrounds, it would have it's commonplace for us to meet in the gym. Anywhere else would have been odd.
Yeah, it really would.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I don't know how many hours. Yeah, in fact, that's a good question, actually. So, like, and I'm sure, I don't know if it's changed now compared to where it was back when you met her, but like, how many hours a day are you spending in the gym, and how often are you going? Like, is it a couple times a day? Are you doing 2 a day kind of a thing, morning, night? Like, how does that look? How does your routine look?
So during what I call off season, when I'm not in prep for a competition or anything, it's just once a day, and it's usually maybe like an hour, hour and a half. Um, my leg days are longer, so it's almost 2 hours for those. But we're on average about an hour to an hour and a half.
Okay.
During competition season, it's 2 a days. So I have cardio in the morning, and then I do weights in the evening. And so that takes up a lot of the time because cardio is usually 45 minutes to an hour in the morning, and then cardio also in the evening after weight training. So
Mhm.
you add another 45 minutes to an hour of cardio plus an hour and a half of training. So almost 2.5 hours in the evenings when competition starts. And
Okay.
so,
And then when is the competition? What does the schedule look like?
so competition prep is usually about 22, 23 weeks to get ready for. And so take this last competition I did in May. We
Hmm.
started prep in mid-January,
Hmm.
and the competition date was May 18th. And I would say prep started around January 12th or so.
Okay.
And it kind of starts with a change in diet. Like food kind of gets taken away, calories kind of slowly decrease over time. Uh, and I would say
Really? I thought that you would increase calories, no?
so. The decrease in calories helps with cutting fat, and then you add in the cardio to help kind of speed up the fat loss, and
Hmm.
so it helps tighten up muscles and cut away the fat. And so I started my weight at about 245 pounds, and then by morning of May 18th, I was about 206 pounds. And so that kind of gives you an idea. In 22 weeks, we cut almost 40 pounds in 22 weeks. And so
Wow.
that comes from the cutting calories, the cardio, all those things combined to kind of help shred off that fat, shred the weight. And by the time, about a week before show,
Mhm.
I was eating 7 times a day, and I only had one meal with actual carbs in it. Everything else was no carbs. At about a week or so before show. So
Whoa.
that's how much work goes into it, because carbs are consistently being pulled away, because carbs like help with, like, not only did you have energy with the carbs, but there's also a little bit of fat source with it too.
Yeah.
And so the more carbs you pull away, the more that your body is going to burn through everything, everything and everything you eat, and all that kind of thing, all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
Wow, I can't talk to save my life right now, but
That is crazy. Yeah.
so
So then, like, do you have a trainer that helps you with that? Like a
yeah.
nutritionist or, okay.
So I have a coach who sets my meal plans for me, and
Okay.
I would check in with him each week during competition season. Even in off season, I check in with him each week, but definitely during competition season. And so he looks all my photos, and he sees, with just from a photo, what we need to change in our diet. And so he'll
Wow.
pull a carb here, he'll increase protein here, he'll change cardio, we'll increase cardio here, that kind of thing, or we'll keep things the same depending on how we look week to week. And so he's manipulating it. He has the science behind it, which the
Wow.
science to me is still kind of foreign, because I don't know how you can look at a picture and know what needs to be changed, but he does a great job with it.
That is incredible. Okay. So then, like, if you're not having any carbs, what are you eating during that time?
So
What
everything
types
is
of
just
food?
straight protein. So
Mhm.
morning is egg whites, because like whole eggs still have carbs and a little bit of sodium. So whole eggs are pulled out, and so it's just pure egg whites. And I'll add in maybe 3 or 4 ounces of lean beef or ground turkey in that first meal. Second meal is just, chicken and a veggie. Third meal, chicken veggie, turkey veggie. Like, that's kind of how it is. And then that last meal is just egg whites. Just pure, like maybe 13, 14 ounces of egg whites in that last meal. And then that first meal is about 8 ounces of egg whites. And it's 8 ounces of lean meat throughout the day with a particular veggie. And so it's either broccoli, green beans, some type of green vegetable to kind of help me stay full throughout the day, which is an oxymoron because I'm hungry the entire time.
Are you really? Yeah. So
Yes,
when you
I
don't have
am.
carbs and stuff and you're just eating protein, that's what I was curious. Like, what about mood swings? Because I imagine you have to. I mean, I'm just thinking about myself, like I'm sure that, like, you have ups and downs and it depends on what you're eating and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Does that affect you? Do you notice that?
definitely towards the end, those last 2 weeks, I'm tired.
Mm,
Uh, Irritability is a little bit up. I try to understanding that. I try to do a very good job of keeping it under control.
yeah.
When I realize I'm getting short tempered, I try to put in more effort to not be,
Yeah.
because those around me are not going to understand. And
Mm,
so it wouldn't make sense for me to be short tempered with them, because they're thinking, what did I do wrong? It has nothing to do with them. It
yeah.
literally has
Right.
everything to do with me.
Yeah.
So I try to keep all those things in check. Like, my very first prep was the worst, because it was my first one. You know what you
Yeah.
don't know. But
Mm,
over the course of the years of each prep that I've done, I realized, okay, Nick, the last 2, 3 weeks are going to be the roughest.
yeah.
And
Mm,
so you're going to need to put in a little bit more energy to control the mood swings, or at least tamper them down to
mm,
where you can function in general society. And then also my relationship with my wife, like making sure like we're not burning any bridges there, because
yeah.
she's the one that has to deal with me the most. So
Yeah.
understanding that, I've definitely over the last 2 years, definitely since Emma and I got married, like I've definitely put in a lot more effort to realize, okay, we can't just be angry and hungry. Like, we have to be a functioning husband and a functioning parent.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. And then, okay, how tall are you again?
5'8".
Okay, so 5'8", and your competition weight is around like 207.
About 205, 206, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Okay, that's where you want to be. Um, and then during that time when you're getting really close to the competition and you're doing this type of diet, about how many grams of protein are you taking in? Would you say?
Oh, wow. I would have to go back and actually look at my
Yeah.
meal plan, but I can tell you the ounces each meal, and it's
Uh,
8 ounces each meal. And
mm,
so if I had to, off the top of my head, gram wise, we're looking at maybe 200 plus grams of protein each day. Um, that's a rough estimate without
yeah.
looking at what plan from this past competition. I would feel 200 plus grams is about right.
Yeah. And so then, like every meal, you happen to, I'm sure, keep a journal and write out exactly what you're taking in. And then
Yep.
is that including water intake as well? And is it water or is it sports drinks or what are you doing?
So I do water with electrolytes to
Mm,
kind of add a little bit of flavor. Zero sugar. So Propel packets are a huge thing in our house. Like constantly buying them from Amazon.
yeah.
So I mix that in with my water. And so I usually drink about 2.5 to almost 3 gallons of water each day. And that kind of just helps with the hunger as well because the water kind of helps you maintain that fullness. And
Wow.
so in between meals, drinking water kind of helps not only with that, but it takes away the desire to snack because when you don't have carbs, like you're just looking at everything and anything that you want to put in your mouth. So
Mm,
water helps with that. And then also chewing gum tends to help me with the snacking craving as well. So the combination of both of those things kind of help me throughout the day.
man, that's crazy. Okay. So then in the off season, like what does your diet look like then?
So it's a slow progression. So after the show is done, you have to do what is called essentially a rebound period. And
Mm,
so you just can't immediately go back to eating everything that you used to because your body is in such a deficit. And so what you eat post show is very important because you don't want to start adding on unnecessary fat. You don't want to mess up your digestion. You don't want to mess up your stomach. There's so many different things that can go wrong if you just jump right back into eating everything you see in the grocery store or everything that's in your pantry. So you have to slowly reintroduce carbs. You have to slowly reintroduce all these different things to let your body kind of get back into equilibrium.
mm,
And so it takes about, I would say, a week, maybe a week or 3 weeks post show before your body really gets back into that normal functioning. Digestion feels better. You're not feeling bloated from different things. And so after that 3 week period, carbs are slowly reintroduced. And then once about a month or a month and a half after show, that's when an off season for me anyway actually starts. And so what we're looking at is meals increase from 6 meals to seven, and then we're pushing 8 meals when we start getting really into the off season, really into the meat of the off season. So at top of my off season, we're eating 8 meals, and that equates to about 63 to 6,500 calories each day. And so carb count goes, actually protein stays down. So it's about 6 ounces of protein, but carbs go right up, like way, way up. So to kind of give you an example, it would be a cup of oats in the morning with a banana, and then 2 cups of rice with each meal, and then maybe two PB&Js like towards the end of the day, and then a cup of oats with the last meal. And so that equals out uh, maybe 400-500 grams of carbs each day, somewhere around there. And
mm.
then fats are about 35 grams or so from your beef, and then almonds that he likes to add in from time to time. But that, on a rough estimate, 6,500 calories, 400 or 500 grams of carbs, and then maybe 200 grams of protein, somewhere in that balance. Again, rough estimate without me looking at my actual plan from past off season, but it's somewhere around
Mhm.
there. That's kind of how the numbers kind of pan out.
Man, every meal then, are you recording every single thing you take into your body?
So he gives me the meal plan. So I can actually just look at the PDF file he sends me. It's like, okay, this is my first meal when I wake up. 2 hours later, this is my next meal. 2 hours later, here's my next one. So he lays it out for me step by step. And so there's not too much thinking that goes into it, which I appreciate. I can just measure it out and then here we go. So
Man, so then I imagine vacations are difficult because you've got to pack your
yeah.
entire 7, 8 meals a day
Yep.
times however many days you're gone. Is that right?
Yeah, so in my off season, I try to be a little more relaxed about it. I try not to be too strict about it. If we're going someplace, I try to go to the grocery store and get a couple things, but I also give myself room to enjoy a dinner or lunch that's off plan or something like that because we're on vacation and it's
Yeah.
off season, so there's no need to be that strict. Now, if we're going on vacation during competition season, that's a different conversation. Like, that's when I really have to pay attention to everything because we have to get ready for stage, and then 1 or 2 days can throw off a lot. And
Yeah.
so that's when the packing is really more intense. And so we're carrying around coolers around the airport, checking cooler bags and things of that nature. And so what was crazy is we went somewhere, I can't remember, but the desk agent for Delta was like, "Are you sure you can check this bag?" And I remember looking at him like, "Don't you know you work here?
Yeah.
You should tell me if I can or can't." But he's like, "Yeah, I can totally check it. It's sealed up. Everything is good. Everything's frozen. So we should be good to go." But it's
Man.
always fascinating to get questions from desk agents for different airlines about, what's in the bag and that kind of.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. And then, on the workout side of things, I know we're going kind of into the weeds here, but I'm super curious about all this stuff. So I'm just kidding. But so when it comes to the workout routine, like in the off season, are you typically mainly focusing on like heavy weights? How do you mix it up? How much cardio are you doing? Just curious, how does that look on the off season versus during the season?
So off season, definitely pushing heavier weight because I have the weight to do it, like personal body weight, and then a little bit more cushioning with extra fat and things of that nature to kind of push the weight a little bit harder. I usually give myself like 3 weeks really heavy weight push, and then 1 week just kind of doing lighter weight for more reps, kind of give my body a little bit of rest, and then that's kind of how I cycle it each month. I know a lot of people do it differently. They'll have 2 weeks of heavy push, 2 weeks of off, but for me, that's what I feel like has led to the growth that I wanted to have, especially this past off season, kind of cycling that way. Cardio is about 20, 25 minutes, 5 days a week, when I'm really into the heart of the off season because it just helps with cardiovascular and then heart health, cardiovascular, and then it's just good to add cardio. It just can't be strictly just weights, like just all around healthier just to add in cardio. Even if I didn't have it on the plan, I would still do it because it's just healthier that way for me anyway.
Yeah.
And then just in comparison, in competition season, without carbs towards the end, like I can't push as much as I want to, and body fat's down, so your risk of injury is a little bit higher if you're trying to push heavier weight. So keeping those things in mind, I push as hard as my body lets me. But I'm also focusing more on the rep side than I am on the weight side because you're not really growing in a deficit. There's no really muscle growth in a deficit because you don't have the calories to replenish the body because you're consistently depleting calories and being depleted. So there's no real muscle growth happening. But it's still good to push yourself within limit without hurting yourself, without causing any injury during the competition season. And then cardio is about an hour to an hour and a half each day during competition season. So it's a lot to kind of keep in mind that, I can't push 400 plus pounds like I used to in the off season. Like now we're doing 300 pounds or 285 pounds because that's what my body can.
Yeah. Okay. Now it's time to flex. So I want to hear some statistics here. So I'm sure that you have measurements, or maybe you don't. I don't know. I'm curious, but like, have you measured your biceps?
I have not. I'm probably the worst bodybuilder when it comes to those type of things.
Really? You never have? Oh my gosh. We're doing that when I get there.
Sounds like a
We need
plan.
to.
I'm curious myself because I haven't done biceps, I haven't done chest, I haven't done like quad size, I haven't done any of that. So I couldn't even
Wow.
tell you.
That's funny. Okay. So then bench press, what's been like your max?
So this past year, I maxed out at 500 pounds on bench press.
Man.
Probably could have pushed it to 510, but I was like, you know what, we'll stop at 500. We're
Hey, yeah, that's all right. That's decent.
good.
Okay. So then squats, what does that look like?
Squats, I've maxed out at 550 on squats. That was a couple years back. I haven't done it since,
Yeah.
but That's how much I've done in a lifetime is 550.
Man, that's so crazy. Okay, so here's I want to get into kind of you had a scare, and it's interesting because Nick plays a lot of stuff down like it's not a big deal, but there was a pretty big health scare that you had that I'd love for you to maybe fill us in and share your experience.
Yeah. So in August of 2018, August 2nd, 2018, I had a bowel rupture. Before August, on June 30th, I was diagnosed with Ossiri-de-Colitis. And before the diagnosis, I had all these different symptoms. Like I wasn't sleeping, digestion was terrible. Like I probably on average, slept about 10 minutes a night because my stomach was always in pain. I was tossing and turning, having to go to the bathroom often, and I never got any relief from it. And I couldn't keep food down. I wasn't eating. Like I could literally feel atrophy setting in because going up and down the stairs is probably the most painful thing that I've really ever
Wow.
experienced, as far as just doing daily things. And so I finally went to a gastro doctor and we did a colonoscopy. And he actually had to stop it halfway through because it had all these ulcers lining up and down my colon. And so he looked at me after the colonoscopy. He was like, "Are you sure your symptoms started when you said they did?" I was like, "Yeah," because he said there's a lot of inflammation in here and there's a lot of ulcers. Like, well, I feel like the symptoms started prior, but we'll take your date because you're the patient. But from my experience, this looked like it started earlier than what you told the timeline was. And so they gave me anti-inflammatory medication, and they also gave me a steroid to kind of help mitigate a lot of the pain. And for a while there, through the month of July, after the diagnosis in June, everything was great. Like I was able to eat, I was able to sleep, digestion was good, and I was getting back in the gym. I was starting to feel like myself. And then August 2nd comes. I was actually at work at 9:30 a.m. I was heading into a meeting with general counsel, and everything just went crazy. I was hot, like feverish hot, like I was sweating a little bit. I feel like I had to go to the bathroom and throw up at the same time. And I looked at general counsel and I said, "Hey, I gotta go home. Hey, I am not feeling good." And so I drove home, and I remember calling the doctor's office. I was like, "Hey, I'm in a lot of pain. Like the steroids aren't helping, the anti-inflammatory is not helping. Nothing in my medicine cabinet is helping with this pain." And I can't think of the word for them, but for lack of a better word, the attending nurse there at the doctor's office was like, "Oh, it could just be gas pain." And I'm like, I've never had gas pain, but I kind of know the difference. Even though I've never had it, I
Yeah.
feel like I know the difference between gas pain and this kind of pain. This one we're on a scale way above gas pain. And so I call Emily and I say, "Hey, I need you to take me to the hospital." And so we go to Altaview Hospital and go straight to the ER. They gave me the pain chart and like, "Where in the pain chart are you?" I'm like, "I'm in a 16." Like, that's how much pain I'm in. Like I can't my stomach is literally flexed the entire time because that's how much pain I'm in. And I remember the doctor coming in, like poking around my stomach. He's like, "Hey, can you relax?" Like, there's no chance. There's no chance I'm relaxing right now. I'm in so much pain. And so they gave me, I think, 4 rounds of Dilaudid before I was actually able to relax and calm down, like just to get from a 16 to a 7. Uh,
Mm.
and so they rushed me in to get an email to get not a CAT scan. Wow, what's the word I'm looking for? Not MRI. Oh my
A
goodness, I
CT
can't think of
scan?
it.
I don't know.
CT scan. There it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
CAT scan. Yeah. Yeah. And so they rushed me in for that. And I would say about an hour or so after that, a CAT scan, CT, the surgeon comes running in and he's like, "We have got to get him into surgery right now. Like, you're at the risk of septic. You have a rupture all across your colon. Like, we don't have time to kind of sit and wait. We got to go. We got to go."
Mm.
And he's kind of explaining the surgery as they're rolling me into surgery. And so I have all these, like, trying to process everything. And he's telling me that we're going to have an ostomy bag for 6, 7 months. You're going to do this, this, and this. And I remember crying a little bit because I'm thinking one of the passions I have in my life, bodybuilding is about to be done. Like, there's no coming back from this. And so I remember crying a little bit about that. But when he said that the ostomy was only for 6 or 7 months, and then they'll remove it and they have a different procedure for it, I was like, okay, I can do 6, 7 months of ostomy. We can do this. And so I'm signing the release forms as they're rolling me in. And so we had that first surgery where they just went in and took my entire colon out, cleaned me out. And then I would say that was in August. My second surgery was in December, right before Christmas. They did the double loop ileostomy. And so I had the ostomy bag. I was actually back in the gym, kind of backtrack a little bit. After the recovery time, about 14 days in the hospital with that first surgery, I went home to my friend Mary's house because I didn't feel comfortable going up the stairs to my old apartment. And so she's like, you know what, you can stay in my spare bedroom. We're happy to have you. I was like, thank you so much. And so I was there recuperating at her home. And about 3 or 4 weeks after that kind of recovery time, I was back in the gym. Like, I was cruising back into it, easy, not trying to do too much. And then we had our second surgery in December. Like, as I mentioned, they did the double loop ileostomy. And what that means is that instead of having one singular hole coming out of my side, I had two. And so for more description about it, it was my small intestine. So it was the ileum of the small intestine, which is the ending of the small intestine. That's what actually was sticking into the ileostomy bag. And so my small intestine was doing everything that the large intestine was doing. So large intestine does the final digestion, it does the absorption of water and everything like that, and then the actual bathroom process happens after that. So instead of going through the large intestine, everything was functioning through the small intestine, food digestion, everything. And so after that second surgery in December, I had my third one in March of 2019, which was a takedown surgery. And so they took away the ileostomy bag and they created what is called a J pouch. And so what the surgeon did was she pulled down the small intestine and she creates a J with the small intestine. And so the bottom of the J is what's connected to my rectum, because there's a small cusp of my rectum left. It's about that big. And that's where the J connects. The bottom of the J connects to the rectum. And so everything, digestion, food goes through the J and then bathroom process with that. And so that's what I have now was a J pouch. And we're going on 5 years with the J pouch. And I remember asking the surgeon who I go see her now every year for checkup. And I asked her after the first surgery, after the creation of the J pouch, I remember asking her, are there any calorie restrictions? Are there any workout restrictions? What do I need to pay attention to? Because I really want to get back into bodybuilding. And she said, there's no restriction in calories. Just pay attention to what you don't digest well, and you should be fine. And there are risks to the J pouch. Like, they have what is called pouchitis, which is inflammation of the pouch. And about 40% of cases usually get it. I was blessed enough to never have pouchitis. Blessed enough not to have a disconnect or anything like that. So the entire process has been a blessing as far as not having any complications that potentially can come from this particular surgery. And I tip my hat to my surgeon. She's an amazing woman, did an amazing job. She redid the surgery line so it looks what she calls, it looks prettier than what it was prior. So it looks better on stage and that kind of thing, because she knew that I was a bodybuilder. And so she took her time closing me up to make sure it looked as pretty as she could make it. And so it was a road to get back after the final surgery, to get back into competing. So me and my coach talked about it. We're like, look, I want to compete again. We can make this happen, but we got to do it slowly. He was like, I understand. Let's do this. So we slowly integrated meals. We slowly integrated workouts. We slowly integrated carbs. And I would say by 2020 is when I did my first show post-surgery. So all of 2019 was easing back into it. And then once we felt like my body was adjusting, all those things were coming together. Because after that first surgery, I feel like I'm bouncing around, but after that final surgery, it took about almost 2 months for my body to get used to the new, what I like to say, new plumbing that we had. And
Yeah.
so for most people, you go to the bathroom maybe 2 or 3 times a day, like maybe once, twice, somewhere around that range.
Yeah.
I was going to the bathroom 10 times a day after that takedown surgery because your body's getting used to everything. And then not only that, I had to reteach myself how to go to the bathroom. Like I had to
Wow.
re-engage my pelvic floor because my body had become, even in that short span of 6, 7 months in the ostomy bag, my body got so used to the bathroom process being in the bag that it never used those muscles in the pelvic floor ever again. So I had to relearn how to do that. And so you had
How
to
do
make,
you relearn how to do that?
so it was essentially like I went to a specialist
Hmm.
to help with that. But
Like
my
physical
surgeon,
therapy?
yeah. So my surgeon also gave me tips. She's like, look, don't try to force it. You'll give yourself a hernia. Like, don't do that. You can also have a risk of hemorrhoids, that kind of thing. So just kind of
Man.
let your body do its natural thing. And so each day, I'm sitting in the bathroom for like 30, 40, 45 minutes just trying to let the body do its natural motion. And so
Wow.
uh, it went from 10 times a day to what they consider normal, which is 5 to 6 times a day, is where I'm at now with how the J pouch works and the digestion works. And also to keep in mind that since I don't have a large intestine, I don't have anything to absorb water during that final digestion process. So I actually lose more water going to the bathroom than a normal person does. So I
Wow.
have to make sure that I keep electrolytes in me and water intake high because dehydration is very possible because going to the bathroom that often, you lose a lot more water that way. So I had to make sure that I'm refilling my body with water and electrolytes so I can stay hydrated and functioning properly.
Hmm.
Um, but through the process, I also realized what I don't digest well anymore. And so spinach, I can't eat a lot of that. I don't do sweet potatoes very well. So those are actually only 2 things that I've noticed after the surgery that I don't digest well. And
Hmm.
so my main carb source is jasmine rice. I digest that very well. Broccoli, I digest well. Green beans, I digest well. Um, I'll have spinach here and there, but very light, very small amounts. I can't do like big bowls, like big spinach salads, that kind of thing. That's never going to happen ever again. But so realizing those things and jumping back into the bodybuilding scene, we made those
Yeah.
adjustments. We made the carb adjustments. We paid attention to everything. I made a documentation of everything of how my body's working, how we're functioning, how we're doing. And once we got into the prep season, we really paid attention to it because we just didn't know how my body was going to react to cutting carbs, cutting calories, the dehydration process that you do towards the end, where you're pulling water to get ready to be as tight and I say saran wrapped when you get on stage, like the
Hmm.
tightness and everything like that. So we were paying attention to every little small detail. And another blessing, everything worked out. And so I won my comeback, what I like to call my comeback show in 2020 here in Salt Lake. I went to nationals the same year and took third at the national show, and then one show after that, and then one show after that, and here we are as a pro athlete. So it's been a road.
Man, such a crazy, cool story. The thing that I've always appreciated about Nick's journey and story is nothing comes easy to him. I think naturally, obviously, you've got some God given gifts when it comes to your body type and everything like that, but it's not like it just comes chiseled, right? Like you got to actually put in the work. But, even when curveballs are being thrown at you, you've been always so good to adapt. I know, something we haven't talked about too is on the career side. I know, it wasn't easy for you getting through the bar, right? And
Right.
so, yeah, maybe walk through what happened with that.
So I took the bar in Utah. I had to take it 3 times before I finally passed it.
Bless your
And
heart, man. I could not even do one of those. Like, how long is the bar? Isn't the bar exam like all day or something? Like, I don't even know.
it's a 2-day exam.
Oh my
And so
gosh.
the first day, each day is 8 hours. The first day
Oh,
is all essay. Second day is all multiple choice. And
unreal.
Oddly enough, it was during the COVID year when I finally passed it. So like, that was one of the good things that came into that COVID year.
You had the craziest COVID year now that I think about it, because you passed the bar. Is that the year that you got married in 2020, right?
Correct.
And then is that when you became pro, or was it a year later?
So it was 2 years later. It was when
Okay.
Ivy was born, my little girl. I turned pro.
There you go. Yeah, Ivy. Yeah. How can we forget Ivy? There we go. That was in 2020 as well?
That was in 2022. So she was born in January of 2022. And then that same year, I turned pro, which is wild.
Man, that's so cool. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, so taking the bar 3 times, and then don't you have to wait like a month before you find out the results of the bar exam? Like, isn't it just some horrible process?
It's usually about maybe 2-3 months, because it depends on when you take it. So the bar is only given twice a year. Everyone in the country takes it at the same time. So the last week of February, the last Tuesday and Wednesday of February, and then the last Tuesday and Wednesday of July is when the bar exam is given. And it usually takes about 2 or 3 months in Utah anyway. Some states a little bit longer, but about 2 or 3 months do you finally get the results back. And so you get that email come across, and you see Utah bar results like, across the headline.
Oh.
And your heart kind of just drops. Like, oh my goodness, like, did I pass? I fail. And so it was one of those things where I had to sit back, at least definitely after that second session. And I had to sit back and realize and make an analysis of, okay, what do we need to change? We have to do something, because we can't continue to do the same thing over and over again, because clearly we're not getting over the hump. And so I said, okay, we need to get better study materials. And I was blessed enough again to have a company, Desert First, who would pay for my bar materials. And to give you an idea of how much these things cost, Kaplan and Barbary are the 2 leading bar prep material companies.
Mm-hmm.
Kaplan, I believe, is the most expensive, and it's about $3,600. And Barbary is about $3,200. And then Themis, coming in at third, is about $1,600. So it is a lot of money to shell out to get ready for the bar exam. And I said, you know what? Yeah. For what I want to do and for this dream to be accomplished, we need to make this happen. And so I remember talking to general counsel at work. I said, do you think that Derek, who was our CFO at the time, would he agree to put this on the corporate card to be an expense? And she said he totally would, because it's based on your career, it's based on your job, so he's more than happy to justify this expense. And so I was so elated, and like quickly signed up for it and got the materials, and I was in my office 6-7 hours a day studying for the bar on top of working. And Emily probably saw me for maybe 20 minutes each day during those 3 months that I was preparing for the bar exam. So I started in December of 2019, and then December of 2019 to January, early February of 2020, I was studying for the bar exam. And then I actually they did it remotely because of COVID. And so I had to download all this exam software and everything like that, test it, make sure everything's working properly, and make sure I had a secure, reliable internet connection. And so I actually took the bar exam at work in one of our meeting rooms, because there was no one in the office. Everybody's working from home. And I knew it would be quiet. I knew the internet would be reliable. And so I talked to our CEO and I was like, hey, do you mind if I take it? He goes, no, be happy to have you take it here. And so I sat in a conference room for 2 days, had my laptop, quietly taking it. And I would say about April, we got the email that I passed the bar, and it just felt like this giant weight come off my shoulders. And also a testament to understanding what I needed to change so we could finally get over the hump, and realizing that it was my study materials, not me as an individual, of why I couldn't pass the bar. And so, because there was definitely a couple moments where I began to question, will I ever become a licensed attorney? Like, will this ever happen? And I remember not letting those seeds of doubt grow into anything more than just a seed. Yeah. Like, we just left it as a seed. didn't water it, didn't pay attention to it, didn't give it attention to it, because I knew this was a dream that I wanted to accomplish. And I was going to do whatever it took to accomplish this dream, because I could not live with myself knowing that I didn't do everything possible to make it come true. And so putting it into action and realizing what needed to be done and understanding and finally seeing the fruit of that work and all the hours spent in my office, all the sacrifices made and time and relationship, and realizing it was all worth it. It was that weight. Oh my goodness. I couldn't even fully explain the elation and the joy of seeing that email come through and that weight come off my shoulders, that we finally did it. We can finally move on. So,
God, that's so cool. And it was the same thing with your, becoming a pro. How many times did you have to compete before and did you have to take first place, or did you have to be in the top 3 to become a pro?
So each national show is different. So the show in Orlando, you have to be the top 2 in your weight class. Other shows, you have to be first place, or you have to win the overall to turn pro. So
out of how many typically contestants?
So in each division, you're looking at 20 plus competitors, and they're all from across the country, and they all look amazing. Everyone is stacked. Like you're splitting hairs as a judge on who's going to be first, who's going to be second, who's going to be third, and so on, because everyone's bringing their best. Everyone has won their regional show to get to a national show. So these are all winners that you're competing against. So there are no slouches at these national competitions. And so you're coming in there with what you think is your best physique, and you're hoping the judges agree and put you in that first or second place spot. I had to do 4 national shows before I turned pro, and I was in the top 5 in each one of those prior shows before the door was finally open for me to come through and take first in the light heavyweight division, which is always the most competitive, at least in my opinion. At each national show, light heavyweights are the most competitive. And you have this last show, I believe there was 30 plus competitors in that division. And so to take first out of 30 some odd individuals who all looked amazing is a feat that I don't take lightly. And it's a feat that I feel humble about, because, like I said, everyone looked amazing. And so for the judges to place me in that first place box is a blessing in itself.
Man. And then once you get that pro card, then what? What's the next goal?
The next goal is to win a pro show. And so if you win a pro show, you go to the Olympia. And the Olympia is like the Super Bowl of bodybuilding. It is the ultimate when it comes to bodybuilding. And so you get there and you want to win the Olympia because you have that title now. Like you've won the men's open Olympia, which they call it Mr. Olympia champion, or you in the 212 class and you're the 212 champion. And so there's a lot of recognition that comes with it. One, winning a pro show, recognition comes with that. Sponsors come with that. Money comes with that. And so there's a lot of accolades that come from winning a pro show. And then winning the Olympia, man, it's almost similar to winning the Super Bowl. Like I said, like you have all this recognition, you have all these accolades that are being laid upon you because you've done what so many can't do. And then to win multiple is even harder to do. So it's one of those things where, for me, the first goal is to win a pro show. Next goal, get to the Olympia. Win Olympia. Win a multiple Olympia titles. Like that's the overall dream that I have set for myself now that we are at the pro status.
And then at what point, like what's the peak, would you say, when it comes to age, right? Because obviously in like pro sports, you're ancient if you're LeBron James at 40 years old, right? Like he is way over the hill, shouldn't be playing. What is it for you guys?
Bodybuilding, usually about mid-40s is when you start seeing people kind of fade out, because it's hard to maintain
Yeah.
that kind of physique and muscle mass when you start getting up there in that age group. There's some who kind of compete a little bit longer. Dexter Jackson, who's one of my favorites, he retired at 50, and he looked amazing all the way up to 50. But he's a rare case as far as bodybuilders getting that far into the age. Usually around, like, I would say 44, 45, somewhere in that range is when you start making those decisions of, can my body continue to handle the rigors of training, the dieting, all these different things. And for most people, it's like, no, my body can't handle it anymore. Or
Yeah.
it becomes a judge's decision that makes it for you, where they kind of place you lower than what you usually have placed before, because your body's not keeping up with the 30-year-olds and the 20-year-olds who are coming in after you. So
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
say that's about the span, about into your 40s.
Okay. And how old are you now?
34.
Okay. So you've got
I got 10.
potentially,
Yeah. About 10 years or
awesome.
so. Yeah.
Awesome. Good for you. And I have no doubt that you're going to hit it, because you've just got that mentality. And I love, I think bodybuilders are special just because they have this incredible ability to set goals and to just not deviate from them, like not let obstacles get in the way, and then just kind of power through and push through no matter what happens. And I mean, that right there is the whole testament to the show. Like, that's the type of, personality that wins in life, is just the one that, it's never going to come easy. Nothing does that's worthwhile. It's just the fact that there are certain people that have that grit, and I really think when it boils it down to, it's not IQ, it's not, circumstances. I really do think that when it comes down to the through line for successful people is that word grit. And without question, you're someone that has that in all of life, professionally, personally, spiritually, physically, obviously, which I think everyone sees right off the bat with you. But the cool thing with Nick is there's just so many more layers to him than what you see on the outside. Because I think when I first met him, I was like, holy cow, this guy's going to probably be kind of a douche, a little bit of a punk, but, like into like himself, right, and his body and everything. And like,
Yeah.
it's weird because it's the personality that you have does not match at all, I think, with what a lot of people would think when they first obviously see you, first impression. And so,
Yeah.
I don't know, that's just been my observation from a distance of like, man, Nick has really actually done quite a bit, when it comes to just overcoming different obstacles. And I'm also curious too, like, because for those of you obviously that have not seen Nick, or that, have seen his competitions and stuff, the scar is like front and center, right? Like, I mean, it's on your belly, like from your belly button down, right? Is that so? Do the judges, do you feel ever have any bias when it comes to that, or how was that looked upon? I'm curious if they ever talked to you about that.
So there was definitely some concern when I got back into competing, how the judges were going to perceive the scar that I have.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like my surgeon did a really good job keeping it with that seam line down the center of the stomach.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not too, in my opinion, not too distracting. But like you said, it is front and center, and so you definitely notice it. But when I won in Salt Lake, and then I placed third at the national show following in 2020, it really put a lot of that to ease, because if they still see me as a top 5 competitor among 30 plus competitors, then the scar is not what's holding me back. It's just growing a little bit more, having that pro physique that they're looking for. So coming back in 2022 and finally getting that pro card, it really gave validation to my inner thought that the scar was not what was keeping me away from becoming a pro. It was just the physique that I needed to bring for them to finally push me over into the pro level. So I don't necessarily think, even now at the pro level, I don't think my scar is holding me back by any means. It definitely brings up questions among those who watch the bodybuilding shows and keep up with it, as far as, what happened, why does he have it? But I don't necessarily think that it's going to ever hold me back from ever winning a pro show, because I think I can bring the physique needed to win a show, regardless of whatever the scar looks like. But I think it opens the door to have a conversation of what I've gone through leading up to this point. And so I like that because I'm able to share the story a little bit and give encouragement to people that even despite whatever obstacles you may have had, those obstacles are not going to stop you from achieving whatever goals you have. The only thing that's ever going to stop you, as cliche as it sounds, is yourself. So,
yeah. Man, so cool. Awesome. Well, Nick, this has been a blast, man. So how can people find you, on social media, or if they want to follow your journey?
So I have an Instagram. You can find me at JD Muscle. It's j.d.muscle. A lot of people get confused. JD is not my name initials. So JD stands for Juris Doctorate. That's what my official degree is from law school. And so I feel like
nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I feel like it was kind of a fancy tagline to have because I have a law degree and I'm a bodybuilder, so kind of mash those two together. So j.d.muscle if you wish to follow the bodybuilding journey. I post a couple workout videos here and there and update physique updates and things of that nature. So that's where you can follow me.
So cool. Yeah. If you guys want to be humbled, if you think that you've got any muscles, I quickly will just get humbled when I'm around Nick, which I appreciate. And it's so cool to be able to hang out with him when I go to Utah. And he's an awesome addition to the fam. So Nick, thanks again for coming on, man. Appreciate it.
BJ, thank you for having me. Glad I was able to be here for you, and definitely look forward to when you're back in Utah again.
I want to thank everyone for taking the time to listen to this podcast. It's the best part of my week. I love learning from others' failures, and let's be honest, failures are way more enjoyable when you're not the one experiencing them in the moment. If you or someone you know has a story or experience to share, we would love to have you on the show. And please do not forget to like and share this podcast with anyone you feel would get value from the experiences shared on this show. Until the next show, remember to fail fast and fail often. Thanks for listening to the Rush to Fail podcast.